Tonight's host.
Welcome into Rock Solid Sports. I'm Chloe. I'm hosting tonight on Friday here in the WTK studios. We have a lot to talk about over on StreamYard. I have Alex, Devin, and Jacquez, and they are all going to be joining me as well to talk about all the news that we have tonight, tons of stuff. I'll throw it over to them. We can make sure we hear them pretty well over on StreamYard. Guys, how's it going tonight? And I'll be excited to have all you guys back in town probably like this time next week as well.
Yeah, Chloe, can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound good.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to be on. Huge news that we're going to get into first. Definitely very interesting stuff. And then, yeah, lots to catch up on just around the country.
For sure. Anybody else?
Oh, definitely. I mean, this has been a crazy week of sports all around. I mean, we started by this week crowning a national champion. And then since then, all chaos has broken loose in every sport. I mean, everywhere there is change, and there's a lot to break down today for sure.
Same, I'm excited. It's been crazy. It's been a crazy break. Like they said, news is breaking out, and I'm excited. Just talking another week of sports. And yeah, we're doing it from the car today, so let's do it.
We appreciate you, Jacquez. We've had some people join from the car lately, but I'll definitely be excited to have everyone back in town here in the studio or at our sponsor on Monday or Wednesday. But we appreciate everyone joining no matter where they're at tonight. And let's jump right into it. Alabama, the biggest news that we were covering just 2 days ago, of course, was Nick Saban retiring at Alabama. Thought we would still be talking about that and maybe about potential coaching hires tonight, but no, Alabama hires, I mean, pretty much the best coach they could come right out and get to replace Nick Saban, and it is the head coach at Washington, Kalen DeBoer. I mean, what should the expectation? First of all, how do you feel about this hire? And second of all, I mean, how do you feel about this if you're Washington? Like, I mean, I know it's probably no hard feelings, but this man just took his team to a national championship, a team that a lot of people had their doubts in, team that a lot of people thought maybe was overrated this whole season with the conference they were playing in. They lost the national championship, but they still had a great season. A Heisman contender quarterback, not even quarterback, a lot of star players that are going to do really great in their futures. And then he just goes down to Alabama like days after the national championship. How do we feel about this? Initial reactions, thoughts, and then we'll get into expectations. Devin, I'll start off with you.
Yeah, well, first, I mean, if you're a Washington Huskies fan, this is really tough because you already knew heading into next season it was going to be really, really hard. You go into the Big Ten for the first time, arguably a step up in competition, even though the Pac-12 was incredible in its final year. But the Big Ten consistently has some really good teams. You already knew it was going to be a struggle with all the players, as you just mentioned, Chloe, leaving Penix, Odunze. That offensive line is going to be depleted. But as long as you had DeBoer, it was like, okay, well, they've got a chance to rebuild and get back. Yeah, now they're really I think the Huskies are in for some tough times. This was some really, really bad news for Washington. But as far as Alabama goes, they absolutely made the best choice they could make. I'm actually shocked that DeBoer was not the first phone call. I really think he was, from the beginning, the best possible choice because Dan Lanning, he's a great coach, but he's still really young. Sarkisian, he's had his moments of greatness, but, he's also had some off moments as well. DeBoer has been a winner consistently at every single level he's been. He started off at a much lower level with I think Sioux Falls University, something like that, like really low, and he won 3 straight national championships there. He then gets promoted, works his way up, gets Fresno State's head coaching job, immediately makes the Bulldogs one of the top powers in the Mountain West, gets to the Huskies. The Huskies were a complete mess after Jimmy Lake's tenure. They were terrible. Players were allegedly getting abused by Lake. Lots of disasters going on, and DeBoer goes in and takes them in 2 years, just 2 seasons, to the national championship. And they only lost 3 games during that span in 2 years. Yeah, he's by far, I think, the best head coach right now in the country. So Alabama hit an absolute home run, and I'm worried that they're still going to be maybe not quite the same right away, but they're still going to be really, really good. But it's going to be fascinating because those expectations are going to be insanely high, and they should be still.
Yeah, I really don't think anyone's like doubting this pick. Like, oh, that's not like Alabama's going to be going to, we all know Alabama's going to come out and get the next best coach they could possibly get. Jacquez or Alex, how do you guys feel about this hire? Well, how would you feel if you were Washington?
I'll be honest, there were a lot of people in Tuscaloosa, I'm sure, the past, day that were a little nervous. They got to feel, the jitters of a coaching search and the uncertainty. I mean, you had the whole Dan Lanning at Oregon turning you down, the rumors swirling, Lane Kiffin, maybe we should call Kirby Smart. No one wants this. And then you go out and get a guy from Washington who is definitely should have, I agree, been one of the first phone calls that you made as an AD at Alabama. And he jumped ship to you. I think this is absolutely wonderful hire for Alabama. Nobody can deny that. It's going to be shaky in Tuscaloosa, I'm sure, for a little bit. Lots of turmoil. And who knows how it's going to be with Nick Saban. I know sticking around in some kind of advisory role. He's changing offices. I think that's about it. But if I'm in Washington, I am hurting right now, man. I think that this is going to set that program back a good bit. I mean, you're going into a new and definitely, undisputably more powerful conference than what you've been used to. And you're going to have to find somebody who can come in right away and retain the recruits that he got or get new ones fresh off the bat to compete in this Big Ten, this super Big Ten that's been created. And I can't see it going well for Washington next year and perhaps even the next couple of years. Got to get a guy immediately who can come in and stabilize this program. And I'm not sure who's on their short list right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think for Washington as an organization, I think as a fan base, also everyone right now is probably not the happiest, but it's the life we live in, right? When it comes down to sports, it's going to happen. So I think Washington will figure it out, and since they have recruits, I'm pretty sure everybody in that building won't leave. So they still have good recruits that their head coach brought in. But for a Washington head coach to head to Alabama, like y'all said, I think that's a really great move. I think the bigger question is, will Will Rogers decommit and head to Alabama? Because if that's the case, Alabama's in some trouble, So I'm excited to see the Washington head coach head at Alabama, and I'm excited to see how he takes over Tuscaloosa. I think Nick Saban, I think his time was up. I think when it came down to the NIL deals, I think it's a different conversation, right? I think you got to speak a different language to these young folks that wants to play college football. Everybody's trying to figure out a way to make millions, and I don't think the way Nick Saban operates as a head coach, I don't think he likes to talk that type of language, right? Because now we're talking NFL money with college players. And I don't think in my opinion, I don't think Nick Saban like that. So I'm kind of, to a certain extent, it's kind of a good thing that he did step down. And I'm kind of excited to see what Washington head coach head at Alabama do in this upcoming season.
I am as well. And it's just kind of a crazy thing to think about. Like just now it kind of hit me. I was like, Nick Saban, I just looked it up, right, has been the head coach at Alabama since 2007. So I was 5. So before I was 5, I didn't know any of that. I didn't know anything. So I'm like, Nick Saban has really been the head coach since, like, that's all I know as the coach of Alabama. And it's just kind of wild, like, to think all sports, all logistics for a side. It's just kind of wild to think, like, the Alabama Crimson Tide head coach, here he comes, Coach DeBoer. Like, it feels so wrong. But I feel like we need like a emotional like montage of like Nick Saban getting really angry on the sidelines right now. Like it's I don't know. Those are always great, especially when the team's so far ahead and he's so mad at something. But anyways,
Chloe,
yeah,
what's crazy is when I was thinking about when he said that he was getting ready to retire, I thought to myself and I was like, we are living in the middle of history. So like when our kids come up, we're gonna be like, yeah, Alabama was 18. They're gonna be like, who the heck was Nick Saban? We like, we was living through that moment when Nick Saban was head coach. Like that is crazy.
yeah, that's true. It literally is history because yeah, it Nick Saban is Alabama football and who was the coach they had? Oh my gosh. What was the name of the coach that Alabama had back in the day? I can't remember. That him and Nick Saban are Alabama football. Nick Saban obviously more recently has done the huge legacy with Alabama, so it's going to be really crazy to see that go, but it's going to be really interesting to see where they go from there. I feel dumb for forgetting the other Bama. I'll
Are
figure
you
it out.
thinking of Bear Bryant?
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
Bear.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So Bear Bryant, Nick Saban, of course, two very famous ones, but more recently, Nick Saban, there's no doubt, has had quite the career at Alabama. So it'll be crazy to see him go. Cannot wait to see what Alabama is able to do in this next year or what they're not able to do when they come to Knoxville like they were 2 years ago. We'll see. Another hire, Jared Mayo, of course, someone who is within the Vol family of VFL from within the Vol family to be the next head coach at over up in New England with the Patriots. This choice, I'm interested to see how you guys feel about this hiring choice because this is a more controversial one, I would say, as far as thinking it's a good decision or a bad decision to follow up the Patriots legacy, another football legacy up there in New England. You guys, I'll start with any of you guys. How do you feel about this one specifically over in the NFL?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I honestly don't dislike it too much because he's somebody who's been with the Patriots for a long time. He has a good relationship with Robert Kraft, of course, is an owner who's very, very involved. I'd say probably more involved than most NFL owners. Um, and he's been with this team for a while, so he's somebody that they trust. He's not a new person they have to get to know. He knows what the Patriots' standard is. He can try to replicate Belichick's, beliefs, and then he's somebody who's going to be passionate about the team winning. He's not there just because it's just a job. He's there because he really cares and likes the area and the team because he's been with them for so long. So, in that regard, I think it's really, really good, and I like seeing guys, get opportunities, young guys. And it's pretty exciting. I will say, though, that is some really big shoes to fill, obviously. Belichick, one of the greatest ever to do it. And that's going to be really difficult. We talked about with Nick Saban, with Kalen DeBoer coming in. The difference to me is, well, DeBoer has proven himself as a college head coach at other places. Maybe not winning a national championship at the highest level, but getting there and proving that he can do it. Jared Mayo, on the other hand, he hasn't proven himself as a head coach. So to me, for him, this is going to be an even bigger hill to climb. But I like seeing guys get opportunities, and I think it makes sense to hire from within somebody that you trust from within the organization that really cares about the team and its brand.
Yeah, Jacquez or Alex, how do y'all feel about this Jared Mayo hire?
I definitely agree with you. I don't think that this is the, splash hire that, a lot of people in the media might have been expecting. I mean, it wasn't like a Mike Vrabel hire, somebody who was coming in from outside of the organization to, fix the things that have been, wrong since Tom Brady's left. But, you mentioned the connection with Kraft. That I think is a key part of it. He knows the way that things should and the way that they want things to operate inside the organization. And they must have a high faith in him to get that back to where it was, back in the Brady days. But I think that it's an interesting hire because he's now the youngest head coach in the NFL. He beats out Sean McVay by 1 month, and he's the new guy on the block. He's going to have to find and figure out these struggles that every first-year head coach has. He's going to do it under one of the biggest spectacles that is the Boston media. They're going to make sure that he performs at a high level, and I'm interested to see how this goes. I think it's up in the air how it goes, but I have faith in Evolve for Life to get this done for us.
I think this is a really great hire. Number one, I think he's coming from in-house. So, like how you were saying, Devin, he knows exactly what's getting ready to go on. I really think this has probably been underneath the cover for a while now. I think they've been grooming him this whole time, right? So, I think Ben Belichick, with him knowing Ben Belichick and him being in there and knowing everything was going on, I think he would be just fine. I think he'll have to put his own spice to it and not try to be Bill Belichick. You know what I mean? So when I think that once he figure out how to put his own spice to it and figure out the people that he want there, I think the Patriots be just fine.
Yeah, I think it could be a really good hire as well. I'll have to see. I'm not someone to have really any initial thoughts on hires. I mean, there's a lot of people that hated the Josh Heupel hire, right? So I never know, but it is crazy too. Bill Belichick and Nick Saban leaving at the same time. Also just crazy to think about in general. Really quick, all these teams, Titans, Seahawks, Falcons, and Chargers for the past few games with the Chargers are looking for new head coaches. Any news, any suspicions, any hires, especially for the Titans, if you're a Titans fan like myself, that you would say no, absolutely not, or any people you think they should hire to replace Mike Vrabel or any of those other coaches that are no longer with those teams this season?
Yeah, me personally, I would love it if the Titans hired Antonio Pierce away from the Raiders. I don't think it's going to happen because I think the Raiders are going to realize that this guy, is a young guy. He is a really good coach, and they're going to lock him down. Max Crosby, of course, is one of the Raiders' biggest star players, was out today advocating for the Raiders to sign Antonio Pierce to a long-term deal and make him their permanent head coach. So we'll see, but the Titans have been trying to talk to him as well. So I'm hoping he could get hired. There is the strong belief that Dan Quinn, who of course has done a phenomenal job as a defensive coordinator with the Dallas Cowboys this year, that he's most likely going to leave and take one of these head coaching jobs, likely not the Falcons one because he already was with that team, but one of the other ones, most likely the Seahawks maybe, but he could flirt with the Titans as well, possibly. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of interesting names out there. The Bengals offensive coordinator, he would be a fantastic hire. I know that they've been talking with him, and we've seen what he's done with Cincinnati, and I think his job has been fantastic. And me personally, I would love it if the Titans went out and got an offensive-minded guy because that's what we desperately need on the team. The offensive line is a mess. We have no receivers, and the quarterback situation, you need a guy who knows how to talk to Will Levis and get his confidence back and get him prepared to be the great quarterback that he possibly can be. So I think that's where the Titans should be looking as an offensive-minded head coach. But any one of those three options I just mentioned, I think would be really good.
Yeah, I'll say so as well. I mean, I haven't really been looking into it, but the Titans, I definitely would agree, of course, offensive minded. That's where all the issues have been not all the issues, there's been a lot, but that's where a bunch of issues have been primarily, especially right, the explosiveness of Derrick Henry, not in the past year really, but in that last game we saw it, and in the past 7 or 8 years we've really seen it. That's probably going to be no more. So it's going to be really interesting to see what the Titans decide to focus on in picking their new head coach, especially, and how that works out. And with that, we will cut to break. We'll be right back. Some crazy things have been happening in college basketball. If you asked me last week what the score of the Lady Vols game versus the men's game this past most recently would be, I would not have expected that. But it's just the SEC. It gets crazy in conference play. So we're going to talk about that. Stay tuned. You're listening to Volunteer Radio 90.3 The Rock. This is Rock Solid Sports.
The Rock thanks the UT Athletic Department and the Lady Vols basketball program for their support. Coach Kelly Harper and the Lady Vols 2023-2024 home schedule includes games against Notre Dame, Ohio State, SEC foes, and more. AllVols.com. Student ticket info is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. The Rock says, "Go Lady Vols."
The Rock receives support from Fieldhouse Social, sports games paired with cold beers in reach in University Commons. Fieldhouse Social offers a diverse menu of tavern foods such as pulled pork nachos, the Fieldhouse Cobb salad, and the Applewood smoked chicken wings. Kick back and relax in the lounge. FieldhouseSocial.com.
Volunteer Radio thanks the UT Athletic Department and the men's basketball program for their support. Coach Barnes' 9th season on the Summit includes home games against Kentucky, Vandy, and more at Thompson Bowling Arena. AllVols.com. Student ticket info and login is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. Volunteer Radio says, "Go Vols basketball."
WUTK thanks Cool Beans, 1817 Lake Avenue, 1 block south of the Strip, for sponsoring and hosting the Monday night Rock Solid Sports broadcast at 7 p.m. Cool Beans is the pregame and postgame location for UT football, and Knoxville's home for the NFL Sunday Ticket, Titans football on the big screen, and more. Rock Solid Sports kicks off Monday Night Football with the show's live broadcast from 7 to 8 Monday nights at Cool Beans. Cool Beans is 21 and over after 9 p.m. with a full and late night menu. CoolBeansBar.com or their Facebook page.
The Rock thanks Knoxville Ice Bears Southern Professional Hockey League team for their support. Their 2023-24 home ice season from October through April includes games with Fayetteville, Huntsville, Roanoke, and more at the Civic Coliseum downtown. Single game and season tickets at KnoxvilleIceBears.com. Rock Solid Sports features Ice Bears Wednesdays with news and updates. Volunteer Radio says, "Go Ice Bears."
Volunteer Radio thanks the UT Athletic Department and the men's basketball program for their support. The Vols basketball team's next home game versus Florida is Tuesday, January 16th at Thompson Bowling Arena at Food City Center at 7 p.m. General public ticket info for UT basketball is at allvols.com. Student ticket info and login is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. The Rock says, "Go basketball Vols."
Hey man, it's your boy Young Honcho checking in on the Edutainment Hip Hop Show. Make sure you tune in 90.3 FM every Saturday night.
Hey kids, it's Derek
and Rob from the Funhouse.
Brought to you each Friday night by Raven Records and Rarities, located at 1200 North Central in Happy Hollow.
Join us each Friday as we kick off your weekend with classics from bands like The Descendants, The Stooges, My Morning Jacket, Mudhoney.
Newer stuff from Anal and the Sniffers, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, Wet Leg, and Turnstile. You'll also catch some local stuff.
Hip-hop, Americana, metal.
Who knows? We don't even know half the time.
Every Friday at 8 o'clock. Right here on 90.3 The Rock.
Hey, Jimmy from Out Loud Knock. How would you describe the show?
Music, blah, 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 blah.
The Funhouse is co-sponsored by your downtown destination, ScruffyCity.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from the UT Athletic Department. The 2024 baseball fall season runs February into May with games against SEC rivals Georgia, LSU, Missouri, and more at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Allvols.com. Students need to show a valid ID at the gate before entrance. Tune into Rock Solid Sports for UT baseball coverage, and The Rock wishes Coach Vitello and the Base Vols good luck on the diamond this season.
Welcome back into Rock Solid Sports as we get the college basketball segment rolling with the epic Pirates of the Caribbean music. One of my favorites. Yeah, we'll get back into college basketball here. I'm Chloe. I'm here in the WTK studios tonight, and we have Devin and Jacquez and Alex over on StreamYard. We're going to jump into some college hoops. Man, it's so fun this time of year. College hoops, SEC play starting right during NFL playoff season. It's so great. But anyways, we'll get right into it. I'm going to switch it up. Let's start with the good news first. Lady Vols are 3-0 in the SEC, so that's really exciting. Not something I expected just because of the SEC and women's is competitive this year, and the Lady Vols had some moments for sure lately, but they're on a roll. They beat the Florida Gators 88-81 last night. Always great to beat Florida. Florida's always competition in basketball, regardless. Florida's always competition in everything for Tennessee, regardless what sport. literally anything. So that game, I was there last night at the Florida game, and let me tell you, Joel Spear had a crazy good performance last night. It was really exciting to see her really get into her stride. She had 20. She tied Sarah Puckett with 20. Sarah Puckett really stood up and got some buckets for the Lady Vols. Then we had Rakia Jackson with 18. So definitely great to have her back as well. And then, I mean, really just a great team effort for sure. Everyone, most players got minutes. A lot of I mean, it was this team really relies on each other. Like we were saying on Wednesday, don't want to get too comfortable relying on Rakia Jackson, although she does need to be relied on because she's, of course, the best player. But in this game, I think it showed us that players like Spear and Puckett definitely have capabilities to step up and be that high scorer as well, and be that teammate that steps up and shows it how it's done. So it shows everyone how it's done. So it was really exciting for sure. They also beat Kentucky at home last Sunday. And then before that, they went on the road to beat Auburn. So it's pretty impressive so far. They go to Texas A&M next. Won't be easy down at College Station, but it'll definitely be another one that I'm looking forward to. You guys on StreamYard, anything about the Lady Vols basketball team and them being undefeated in SEC play so far?
Yeah, it's a phenomenal start. You mentioned it, Chloe. It was great to see. We've seen Rakia Jackson dominate these last few games. She's really been one of the best players in the country, but it's a team game, and they really needed other players to step up. And fortunately, Sarah Puckett finally stepped up and became a star player in this game. That was a wonderful thing to see. And Spear, we've seen her have some really great moments before, but this was an absolutely phenomenal game from her, as you said. So fortunately, Tennessee had a legitimate big three in this game. They've showcased a lot of depth, and hopefully players like Tamari Key continue to get healthier as the season goes on. Striplin hopefully gets more consistent, because at that point, Tennessee's got all the potential to be a top tier team and make it back to March Madness again. These are some key
Mariki
wins.
definitely showed some moments of her
Yeah.
old self last night. I will say as well. She had a few blocks, and yeah, she was getting in there.
Yeah, she's finally getting, you know, healthier, and obviously what happened to her last year was so unfortunate, and it's taken a while to get back to this point, but I think she's slowly getting better and better as the season goes on, which is great because fortunately Tennessee doesn't play LSU and South Carolina until a little bit later, thank goodness. As far as Texas A&M goes with that game, I was looking at their schedule. The Aggies week schedule. So they're 13-3. That record's kind of misleading. I'm just gonna say you look at Texas A&M's schedule and compare it to Tennessee's schedule, and not quite the same story. So even though A&M's got a good record and they're at home, and they have a really good guard named Rogers, I still think Tennessee should be the favorite to win this game. And A&M played LSU recently, who's the only great team that they've played this year, and they got destroyed. So I'm feeling pretty good about Tennessee to go in there, but we'll see. It's always tough to go play in the SEC on the road. But right now, the way the Lady Vols are going, I think they could possibly be on a bit of a roll.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else on the Lady Vols?
If you look at the Lady Vols game earlier this season against Ohio State or Notre Dame or Indiana, and you watch the film from that game, and then you watch the film from last night, you will see two completely different teams. You look at the game last night, watching it on television at least, they just played differently than they did in the out of conference schedule. There was a certain passion almost that came with every possession throughout the game. And something that I thought was interesting to note is that in certain times throughout the game, I want to say maybe right before halftime, they were kind of slumping there, and then they battled back, tied the game going into half. There were times where it looked like things were about to get out of hand and they were going to do what they had done in the past, where they let a team get too far ahead, and then there is no triumphant comeback in the end. they always found a new person to step up and provide a spark for the offense or to make a big defensive stop. And I think that's the key for this Tennessee team. They have to play together or else they will fall for sure. I think it's interesting to note last night they talked about the net rankings for Tennessee. Obviously, they've never not been in March Madness. After that game, they're sitting at 64, so right on the bubble after that game. And if Kelly Harper wants any chance of staying at Tennessee, she's just got to keep winning. And it starts with the next game. That's all you can do, one game at a time here.
I totally agree. Like you said, one game at a time. And Kelly Harper want to stay, she got to keep winning. But let me tell you something about this team. I'm not worried about this team whatsoever. Like I said, this team has had recruits just not coming, so they're still trying to figure out how to play as a team. And with Rakia Jackson being a veteran on the court, being in these tough situations for the past 3 years, and she's coming into her 4th or 5th year, I'm telling you, this team is going to be very good by the time they get down to LSU and USC. I know right now it looks like because they lost to a couple of unranked teams they wasn't supposed to. It's just because the communication just wasn't there. But now I think this communication as a team is building week in, week out. These girls are playing together, and I'm telling you, this team may be a shocker. This team may be a Cinderella team in the SEC. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win it all. Now, I ain't saying that. But his team could be a Cinderella team and a shocker in SC. And I think they could turn some heads as they continue to go forward in the season.
For sure, it's been really impressive. And I think that if they keep playing how they have been, I mean, the win against Florida definitely wasn't pretty. There were definitely it was very physical for sure, but it just, I think that if they keep fighting the way they have been, definitely good things will come to this team. I would love to see them be a Cinderella team, especially in the SEC. Get up there, get ranked. Maybe South Carolina is, of course, a big goal as far as beating them, but it's been done. They beat South Carolina 3 years ago when they were the number 2 team in Tennessee. I'm pretty sure was unranked. So that was a really fun one in Thompson Bowling Arena that I went to. And, LSU, Tennessee beat at the end of last season. So we'll see. It's going to be definitely anything can happen in the SEC for sure. Which brings me. What was that?
I'm not mistaken. Don't they got both games at home? Don't they play USC and LSU back in Knoxville? I think so. I think they play. And if they play down in Knoxville and these girls got some heart,
that's correct.
Might be an upset.
No, really, because Kelly Harper was saying yesterday, she was like, you really see, especially in the SEC games like this, how the fans get loud here in Thompson Bowling Arena. So, yeah, that's a very good point. Thanks for bringing that up, Jacquez, because it's definitely, it makes the difference in basketball for sure in the SEC, especially these Lady Vols fans. These Lady Vols fans, something about them, they will show up. But which brings me to as I said, anything can happen in college basketball in the SEC. The men on Wednesday, as we were doing our show, lost to, well, it was a little bit after our show and they lost, but me and Allie were watching it during the show. And I mean, I couldn't really speak straight because I was annoyed at what I was viewing. But the men lost to Mississippi State 77-72. Now, I wish I could go back to the show where I remember I was over here and we were talking about SEC play. And I said, I'm not really worried about Ole Miss, but I might be worried about Mississippi State. And then these boys on the show told me that there's nothing to worry about. But I said that. I swear, you can go back. I'll find the day. And I said that because I was kind of looking at Mississippi State and I don't know, something about it. Their chances to win were way higher than Ole Miss's ever were. I know that's just chances and odds and betting and all that, but it was, I'm saying, I don't know, something about Mississippi State. I guess I remember a few years ago when we lost to Mississippi State, and we definitely shouldn't have. That was before I was even in college, but I guess that was sticking out in my mind, and it happened. 77-72, really messy game for the Vols here. I mean, the Vols had every chance to come back and win this, and they just couldn't do it. Connect, the high scorer, with 28 points. Then Zakai with 26. And then after that, guys, Adu with 9 and Triple J with 3 and Vescovy with 2. Sorry, Awaka had 4. So really these two guys, Ziegler and Connect, really coming out. But, I mean, at the end there, it just looked I mean, just too many mistakes. They could have totally won. Even in the last minute, there was still that hope. They were able to score right there in the last few minutes. But I mean, Mississippi State just made all the right plays, made all the right choices. You guys, what thoughts on this Vols loss to Mississippi State? Of course, the Vols will come back. A lot of teams, which we'll talk about in a second, lost to teams they should not have this week. But I'll kick it over to you guys. What do you think about this loss?
Yeah, Mississippi State is a really good team. Again, it's something that we've talked about in the SEC this year. On paper, it looks like the SEC isn't that strong because there's only so many top 25 teams. But then you realize there's a lot of teams that are just barely outside of the top 25, like Mississippi State, like South Carolina in the men's side, who's only got one loss. Ole Miss, is a decent team. Auburn just got into the top 25. They look really good. So the SEC actually is a much stronger conference than it looks based on the rankings, just because there's so many teams that are really, really good that are like in the top 40, but just not in the top 25. Mississippi State's one of those teams. I was very impressed by Tennessee's second half comeback. The problem with this game is they just played way too bad in the first half. They were down at halftime 35-22. So when you consider that and you look at the reality, oh, wow, Tennessee came back and they actually outscored Mississippi State pretty good in the second half. They played really well. The biggest problem with this game is I know Jonas Adu didn't do super well offensively, but he was playing really, really good defense, and he was the only guy that could match up with Tolu Smith, their star postman. And when Jonas Adu fouled out of the game late in the game when it was tied, you knew exactly Mississippi State was going to go right back to Tolu Smith. Even on the double team, he scores the game-winning basket, and with an and one. You just knew that was a smart play call by Mississippi State. They knew exactly what they were doing. Adu fouling out was the moment Tennessee really lost this game. So the Vols have to be more disciplined with their fouling. I've seen them get a lot of foul calls this year that I don't like, and now it's costing them games. So I'd love to see them play a little bit more disciplined. And other than that, I think Tennessee honestly didn't do too bad this game. Just can't make some critical mistakes that late in the game when it's a close one.
Yeah, anyone else?
Consistency is key in college basketball. Finding your rhythm and being able to turn away the ultimate runs that happen, because basketball is a game of runs. I mean, that is what I've always been told my entire life. And, there's going to be those 8-0 runs where stuff is not clicking offensively and they are hitting every shot. And that is something that has worried me about this Tennessee team. They seem to be inconsistent at times, and that is where a lot of our struggles come from. Another thing, this was, of course, a bad week for a lot of the top-ranked teams. I think 4 out of the 5 of the top-ranked teams went down. UConn, I think, was the only one that didn't. But this Tennessee team has got to win on the road. If you want to win in March, you're not going to win at Thompson Bowling or the Food City Center. We've got to figure out how to get it done on the road, and that is why you mentioned the SEC being so strong, yet people are doubting it from outside. That's why this SEC slate is setting up perfectly for Tennessee. We've got to go on the road and win big games, and that's going to help us prepare for March when we're playing in those big venues far away from home to get it done and finally break through and do something that Tennessee has never done. And I'm looking forward to it. We're going to figure it out. We have the pieces. It's just, can we connect?
Yeah,
No
I
pun
totally.
intended. Sorry.
No, you good. You good. I totally agree. I'm getting ready to turn some heads when I say this. When I was watching the game, I don't see Tennessee being that good. They're ranked number 5 in the country, but I do not think they're good. They're good, right? And that's a big chip to bite because they're ranked 5 in the country. But if we really sit down and look at Tennessee, early in the season when they played 3 of the top 10 teams, they lost, right? Then they went on a good run and they started winning. Then we was all questioning, can they beat Ole Miss? Then when we started looking at Ole Miss schedule, Ole Miss didn't play nobody, so they beat them. Then now we're back at a stage where Mississippi State is a really good team. They got really good players. Not even great players. They just got really good average players, and we can't get over a hump, right? When we talk about going into March, you got to get over every hump. You got to get over every adversity. No matter if you're down by 16 going into halftime, you got to figure out a way to be able to get over the humps to win these games. I do not think Tennessee is that good. I think there's a lot of great players on this team, but I think they have to find a way to be consistent, number one, play more together as a team, and nobody can have down nights. You can have a quiet night, but not a down night. Dalton Connect for the past 3 games, if I'm not mistaken, has not scored over 12 points. He just got hot again. Ziegler been hot for the past 4 or 5 games, scoring, if I'm not mistaken, like 25. Adu is another one that's been hot, right? And then if Adu offense is not good, 9 times out of 10, Tennessee doesn't win. So this team has to find a way to continue to keep playing together. The team has to find a way to be able to continue to get the offense more rolling. The defense, I believe, is fine. I just think when it comes down to the offense, they have to be more consistent, and everybody has to be at least medium hot. You don't have to be hot, but you at least have to play average a night.
For sure. The way this Tennessee team works, this like machine, I see it is like this. Everybody has. There's so many different working parts, and they all have to work together, right? You got Adu, and you got Awaka, and you got the Meshack and those guys on the defense, and then you have guys that have like the offensive spurts, and they all have to be working together. At least most of them do. Like if one person went down, I wouldn't be too afraid, but a lot of these guys all have to work together. So just like Devin pointed out, like sorry. Just like I was pulling up the stat sheet. Sorry. Adu fouling out. That was just something that happened that definitely, it's a little thing. It's one player, but it definitely affects the whole team's game and everything. And that's just how this team works. So I think that down the stretch, definitely they need to be more consistent. They're next up, they have Georgia. Hopefully that'll be a bounce back. But the madness has already begun. It is not even March. Like Alex was saying, the 4 out of the 5 men's basketball top 5 teams went down. Houston goes down. Kansas goes down. And UConn does not. And then Purdue did as well. So it's just a lot of crazy things happening. And like Jacquez was saying, they can't have off nights, especially not in March, because we see how that goes in recent years with these really good Vols teams, and we think they're going to be a Final Four team, and then we get to March and they just have a meh night or not good night with a team in the round of 64 or 32, and it's really disappointing. But I personally think that this team is just going to get right back up. I think that this team is one of the better Vols teams we've had since probably the Sweet 16 run back in 2018. I think that this team, 2017, 2018 basketball team. I think that this team is, I don't know. I really feel something different with this team. In years past, I've thought, oh, well, maybe it's this team is good, but we're not consistent enough to make it to the Final Four. And this year, I think that this team is more consistent. They still need to be more consistent than they are. But as far as the past Vols teams, and I think you guys would agree with me, as the past few years, this is the most consistent one, I would say, in the past 4 years that I've been in college. But I that's how I feel. But yeah, definitely Vols. I think they're going to come back against Georgia, and I think that the SEC will definitely look better. But this was just one that they have to just move on from. Just one of those weeks in basketball, I think, as Devin put it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was looking ahead to Georgia. Obviously that game's happening tomorrow morning. One of the bigger games happening tomorrow. And I was looking at Georgia, and the Bulldogs typically are not the greatest. I mean, they're a football school, as they say. So typically not the greatest in basketball, but 12-3 record, not too bad. But you look at the teams they played, kind of similar to what I was just saying with the Lady Vols going on the road against Texas A&M. Okay, they've got a decent record, but look at their schedule. It's not that great. They didn't really beat anybody that was a super high-profile team. So I'm not too terribly worried about Georgia. But again, as Jacquez was saying earlier, they got to figure out how to win on the road consistently. This is going to be definitely a key test in Athens because I bet the fans there, obviously us in Georgia, we're not the most hated rivals, but we do have a bit of a rivalry, and I bet there's going to be a lot of fans there. Tennessee's it's still gonna say they're ranked number 5, and if they can beat Georgia, fortunately with all the other upsets going on, all the other chaos, because even the number 9 ranked Sooners and even the number 11 Marquette Golden Eagles, they lost to unranked teams too. It was one of the craziest 2 days in college basketball history, actually. And so Tennessee, hopefully, if they can beat Georgia, they might not end up falling that far in the poll. They might still be a top 10 team just because of all the other chaos. Though if I had to guess in the next poll, the top 3 are probably going to be all the blue bloods of UConn, Kentucky, and North Carolina. Probably going to be the next top 3, but hopefully Tennessee can stay in the top 10 with a win.
Yeah, for sure. We'll be, of course, I'll be tuning into that Georgia game tomorrow, and go Vols, of course, but we'll see. It'll be exciting. We got to switch over to NFL for our last segment. A lot of crazy weather conditions happening this weekend. So we'll talk about that going into wild card weekend, wild weather week, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be crazy. So we'll talk about that. And after this short break, listen to these messages from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. You're listening to Rock Solid Sports on Volunteer Radio, 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
Hey, everybody, this is Ryan Roxy, and you are listening to 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock. Keep it going.
The Rock thanks Knoxville Ice Bears Southern Professional Hockey League team for their support. Their 2023-24 home ice season from October through April includes games with Fayetteville, Huntsville, Roanoke, and more at the Civic Coliseum downtown. Single game and season tickets at KnoxvilleIceBears.com. Rock Solid Sports features Ice Bears Wednesdays with news and updates. Volunteer Radio says, go Ice Bears!
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from the UT Athletic Department. The 2024 baseball fall season runs February into May with games against SEC rivals Georgia, LSU, Missouri, and more at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. AllVols.com. Students need to show a valid ID at the gate before entrance. Tune into Rock Solid Sports for UT baseball coverage, and The Rock wishes Coach Vitello and the Baseballs good luck on the diamond this season.
WUTK thanks to UT Athletic Department and the Lady Vols basketball program for their support, and we wish Coach Kelly Harper and the team good luck this season. The Lady Vols' next home game versus Vanderbilt Sunday, January 21st at Thompson Bowling Arena at Food City Center is at 3 p.m. Student ticket requests are at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. General public tickets are at allvols.com. Volunteer Radio says, go Lady Vols, beat the Commodores. The Rock thanks Cool Beans, 1817 Lake Avenue, 1 block south of the Strip, for sponsoring and hosting Monday night Rock Solid Sports broadcast at 7 p.m. Cool Beans is the campus headquarters for food, brews, pool, shot starts, sports, and more fun. Tuesday night is team trivia night, and Thursday nights are for bingo. CoolBeansBar.com or their Facebook page for more info.
Volunteer Radio thanks the UT Athletic Department and the men's basketball program for their support. Coach Barnes' 9th season on the Summit includes home games against Kentucky, Vandy, and more at Thompson Bowling Arena. AllVols.com. Student ticket info and login is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. Volunteer Radio says, go Vols basketball!
This is Dane Funky. You're listening to 90.3 The Rock, bringing Knoxville new music first.
Support for WUTK comes from Fieldhouse Social, the modern sports bar next to campus at University Commons. Fieldhouse Social serves American craft fare such as burgers, wings, and more with high tops around the bar, a separate dining area, and a center lounge with leather chairs and couches in front of their 23-foot LED TV wall for Tennessee and pro sports. Fieldhouse Social is an outdoor patio with trivia twice a week and sponsors Wednesday's Rock Solid Sports. FieldhouseSocial.com.
The Rock thanks the UT Athletic Department and the Lady Vols basketball program for their support. Coach Kelly Harper and the Lady Vols 2023-2024 home schedule includes games against Notre Dame, Ohio State, SEC foes, and more. AllVols.com. Student ticket info is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. The Rock says, go Lady Vols!
Hi, this is Derek and Rob from the Funhouse. It was brought to our attention that our show and the things that we do could be seen as childish and not funny, sophomoric, vapid, stupid, and a complete and utter waste of time.
We strive to bring you the most entertaining radio that we're capable of each and every week.
So won't you please continue to support us and the station? Tune in every Friday night from 8 to 10 p.m. only on 90.3 The Rock. The Funhouse, syphilis-free since 2013.
Stop by the Funhouse Friday nights from 8 till 10 only on 90.3 The Rock.
The Funhouse is proudly sponsored by Raven Records and Rarities and Happy Holler, providing Knoxville with vinyl and more for nearly 40 years. And by ScruffyCity.com, your downtown destination.
Welcome back into Rock Solid Sports. It's Friday night. I'm Chloe. I am on tonight with Jacquez and Alex and Devin over on StreamYard. We're going to close out tonight's show with some NFL. There is crazy weather, and I mean snow, expected for the Kansas City and also in Buffalo, both of which those cities are having games. They're shoveling out the snow in both of those about now. I know they are in Buffalo for sure. So, I mean, Buffalo is kind of used to the snow, so we're wondering if maybe that will give Buffalo the edge. I mean, the Steelers, not that Pennsylvania is, up there, it's that close, far away. So, but I think Buffalo definitely gets snow way more, so that could give them the edge. I wanted to ask Jacquez really quick. I know that he played football down in the heat of Mississippi, but what are like the craziest weather conditions you probably ever played in?
Crazy weather condition I played in was down in Dallas. It was 2020, and we played Tulsa. That's when that big fight broke out, and it was like maybe 10 degrees down in Dallas, and it was raining. Let me tell you something. You do not want to play football when it's cold and it's raining because you feel everything. When it's hot, you don't feel nothing. You don't feel it. So you wake up the next morning, you be like, what that bruise is. But when it's cold, somebody could pop your hand and just feel like somebody slapped the heck out of you. So let me tell you, I know for a fact these teams right now are definitely getting ready to go through it, especially not even just Buffalo and the Steelers, but Kansas City and the Dolphins. Like I was just talking to my homeboy because they just landed down in Kansas City, and he's talking about I got off the plane. He said, I got 2 jackets on, and it still feel like I got no shirt on. So the Dolphins may be in for a rude awakening, but we'll see. They'll figure it out.
For sure. Like we were saying, the Dolphins definitely aren't used to that weather. Not that Kansas City gets pretty cold, but it's definitely more common, of course, in Buffalo for them to have snow. But it's going to be super cold this weekend. As far as the Chiefs and Dolphins game, I feel like this could end up being affecting both teams pretty evenly. I'm not sure. What about you guys? Any comments on the Kansas City game or the Buffalo game?
Well, what's wild about the Kansas City Chiefs game is because sometimes it can get pretty cold in Kansas City just because of where it's located there in Missouri. But this possibly could be the coldest Kansas City Chiefs game in their history. Currently expected to be tomorrow night, again, because of course it is a nighttime game, which also doesn't help. But supposedly it could be negative 30 degrees with a wind chill, which would break the record for coldest game in Chiefs history. So they're not exactly used to that either. Of course, Miami, it's like Miami, you could have just beaten the Bills, hosted a playoff game. You wouldn't have to worry about any of this down in Miami, Florida. But instead, now you got to go to one of the coldest games in recent history. So that's on them for losing that game there. As far as the Steelers and the Bills, I honestly believe this bad weather is going to help the Pittsburgh Steelers a lot because Josh Allen, while he has still been really good scoring, and he's a good runner himself, but he has been very turnover prone this season. I think the bad weather, because it's not just the fact that they're playing in supposedly over a foot of snow, the wind miles per hour is going to be like 50 to 60 miles per hour. So neither team is going to want to throw the ball very much at all. to me, that benefits the Steelers because they have Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, both really good runners. And Buffalo has been iffy running the football. I honestly believe now the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to get this shocking upset over the Buffalo Bills because of these weather conditions and the fact that they're also on a bit of a roll as well. But we'll see. I think it'll be close, but I'm going to pick the Steelers to get a huge upset.
Yeah, Alex, any comments?
When you look at the ticket prices for that Kansas City game, according to SeatGeek, you can get into that stadium for $41 to this game. That is a playoff game, $41
I see
at
tickets as
Arrowhead.
low
That
as
tells you,
33.
wow, that is, I mean, just that tells you how much this weather is going to impact that game. Miami has one of the top rushing offenses in the league, but they play their games in sunny Miami. How are they going to handle this cold? Obviously, Mahomes has played in cold weather. Can he will his team that has played lackluster all season to the divisional round? And then you look at Buffalo and that game against the Steelers. The only thing that could give the Steelers a chance in heck in this game with all of the injuries, star TJ Watt being out, was going to be a torrential snowstorm. That was the only thing that was going to level the playing field against the Bills, and it happened. I mean, it's going to have to be a Najee Harris masterclass to really put this game into perspective against a determined Josh Allen team. But I think there's a genuine shot that game might end 9-7, but the Steelers could win that game. And I think there's a chance that the Chiefs win the game as well because, I mean, you just look at that Miami team and where they come from and the players and what they're expected all season. I mean, how can you not love NFL football? The script writers this year that are supposedly exist have done a masterclass job. I mean, every game has a unique feel to it. I cannot wait for this weekend.
Absolutely, me too. Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna drop a gem that I've heard. We're gonna keep it low. So the Dolphins, when it gets super cold like that, they have different gear that they're gonna have. So some of them are gonna be in snowsuits underneath their gear, and they got heated insoles, heated gloves, and all that. So we're going to see how they perform. So if everything's heated right and it feels warm to them, they might figure out a way to win it and pull it out on being on top.
Okay, that's true. I can imagine wearing a snowsuit.
It's not like
what I'm playing in.
Like a snowsuit, but it's like one of them little thick things that you put underneath your snowsuit. That's what, something like that.
Yeah, like long underwear or something. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see. It's going to be definitely exciting. That game's tomorrow, and then of course, Buffalo game with the Steelers is on Sunday. Yeah. So definitely interesting. I'll be watching the Lions. I'll be watching all these games. Super exciting. We'll be covering them on Monday, recapping. We'll see you then. The Funhouse is up next. You're listening to Volunteer Radio, 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.